Molly Masters, the Agriculture Extension Agent in Bighorn County for Montana State University. And I'm going to show you the contents that I have for doing a nitrate test strip sample. So first I'm going to start off just kind of my nitrate test kit and what's in it essentially. So first I have the strip tests. They're about $43 for 100 of them. Next you want some kind of grinder. So this is just a coffee bean grinder. I prefer that. The other thing you can use is a blender with a mason jar on top of it. And that does an adequate job, but I do prefer this personally. The other thing that I use is just kind of these little jars to put the ground up sample in for drying in the microwave. And then it's a nice storage place as well for if you want to retest it or while you're just kind of holding on to that sample. These jars are for the testing itself. When you mix the sample with water, I really like these ones specifically because it has right on there about 100 ml, which is part of the instructions. That's how much water you want to mix with the sample. I also have in here a permanent marker, and that way I can keep track of my samples if I'm doing more than one. So like this lid I have labeled number 1 here, so I would be sure I kept that with the number 1 jar on here just to keep them straight, and then I make sure that that's correlated well with the physical sample as well. Another couple items that I have this little plastic jar that I use to weigh the sample. So to weigh the sample you would need some sort of little scale as well. And this one goes up to 20 grams and you need a 1 gram sample of dry matter. So next we'll go through the process. Oh, and scissors I use as well to cut up the sample. So next we'll kind of go through the process of how to get started on a sample. The sample that you want to take would be representative of what the livestock animal would be eating. So with this sample you can take more of a whole stem like such. And I just cut them into less than 1 inch pieces right into the coffee grinder. Again, you want to have this as representative as you can to what the cow would be consuming. So it's going to include the stem, it's going to include leaves, and there can be flyaway pieces as you're doing this. I have found it's almost easier to grind when the sample's a little damp. And that way when you're done with it and you take that cap off, there's not the like the flour poof that comes out of there. But this sample kind of came in as is, that's already fairly dry. So from there, plug it in. It's nice and ground up. This one might poop a little bit, yeah. And then what I would do is kind of just get as much as I can of that into one of these guys. Dump that in there. And then from there, although it's mostly dry, there's probably still a little bit of moisture in it, so we'll go to the microwave and dry it. When we do that, you don't want to put it in for any longer than 30 seconds at a time because it can be a little bit flammable. Or another option is to use a lower power control, like 30 or 40, maybe 50, just depending on how quickly you want to get it dried. So with that, we'll go dry. Alright, so we'll say we're back here 30 minutes later and we're ready to do the strip test on the nitrate or the forage sample. On the bottle itself it has these different different colors, and as it gets darker that's showing more presence of nitrates. So just kind of keep that in mind. So we'll go ahead and take one of these strips out. Open this up. And you want to soak it for about 2 seconds, so I usually just kind of start one side, 1000 to 1000, flick any extra excess water off, and then we want it to sit for about a minute while it's kind of reading those results. So I have a watch that I like to use to do that. I also use a phone often, especially when I'm recording those 30-minute intervals. I've gotten to where if I'm doing multiple samples in a day that I kind of mark down, I shook it once, I shook it twice, and this is the time that I need to test it just to help me keep track of that in my mind. And then again, when you're doing more than one sample, it helps me to kind of keep things in a row. So I'll have the first sample here, second sample here in a row, and so on down the line. That just helps you make sure that you're staying on track on which forage you're doing. So it's been about a minute, we'll say, and so you just take the strip and kind of show it, kind of put it along this here, and this is actually showing potentially up to 2500 because it's not quite that color but not quite that color, so it could potentially be somewhere in there is what this is showing. If the strip test shows 25 or higher, I do recommend sending it off to a lab to get a more quantified number, because this is just meant to kind of give us an idea if it's real low risk in that 10 or 0, or if it's higher and showing a little bit of nitrates. I like to know what it is for sure. When we look at the tables of using the strip test, it kind of shows if it's less than 10,000 or if it's less than the 2500, you're probably safe to feed as long as it is a representative sample, but just for our risk, I like to use that number instead. And then anything higher, it says feed cautiously until you get lab results. And then if you, as far as correlating, and I should have done this first, as far as correlating these numbers to the forage nitrate, that there's these numbers here. So these correlate with what's on the bottle, the 10, 0, 10, 25, and then this is the nitrates that are in the forage to see if it's less risk or higher risk. So, with that, happy nitrate testing.